September 8, 1997. The early autumn air carried a chill through the small town of Oakwood, nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia. 6-year-old Angela Miller had been reported missing by her mother, Sarah Miller, after failing to return home from elementary school. The quiet community of 3,042 residents had never experienced such a tragedy before. Angela was described as a bright, cheerful child with blonde hair and blue eyes. She stood at 3'8" and was last seen wearing a purple backpack, a light blue jacket, and denim overalls. Her first-grade teacher, Mrs. Thompson, confirmed that Angela had attended school that day and had left the building at 3:15 p.m. with the other children. The distance between Oakwood Elementary School and the Miller residence on Cedar Street was merely 8 blocks, a walk that should have taken no more than 15 minutes. The Miller family situation was complicated. Sarah Miller, 26, was a single mother working 2 jobs to support her daughter. Angela's father had abandoned them shortly after her birth. Sarah had been raised primarily by her stepfather, Raymond Carter, 58, after her biological father died when she was an infant. Raymond lived on the outskirts of town, in a secluded property approximately 12 miles from the Miller's apartment. Sarah had a strained relationship with her mother, Elaine, who struggled with alcoholism, and had moved to Ohio 3 years prior. When Angela failed to arrive home by 4 p.m., Sarah began calling neighbors. By 5:30 p.m., she had contacted the Oakwood Police Department. Officer James Wilson took the initial report, and by nightfall the entire 6-person police force was mobilized. Search parties comprised of local volunteers combed the route between the school and the Miller home. The weather that day had been overcast with intermittent light rain, with temperatures hovering around 52 degrees. By nightfall, the temperature had dropped to 45 degrees, creating urgent concerns for Angela's safety if she was outdoors. The first 48 hours are critical in missing children cases, stated Police Chief Robert Davis in his first press briefing. We're utilizing all available resources to locate Angela and return her safely to her mother. Initial searches focused on abandoned buildings, wooded areas, and drainage ditches along Angela's school route. K-9 units were brought in from neighboring Mason County. The dogs tracked Angela's scent to the intersection of Maple and Pine Streets, approximately halfway between the school and her home, before losing the trail. Security camera footage from the local convenience store at that intersection showed Angela walking alone at 3:28 p.m. This was the last confirmed sighting of the child. The footage showed no signs of distress or that she was being followed, though the camera angle captured only a limited view of the street. Sarah Miller appeared on local television, pleading for her daughter's return. "Angela is my whole world," she sobbed. "Please, if anyone knows anything, call the police. If someone has her, please don't hurt my baby. Just let her come home." The following morning, September 9th, the FBI became involved, with Special Agent Diana Coleman taking the lead. The case was now classified as a suspected abduction. Roadblocks were established on all major routes leaving Oakwood, and officers conducted door-to-door interviews throughout the town. If you want to follow more cases like this that shake entire communities and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any investigation. As days turned into weeks, the investigation into Angela Miller's disappearance faced numerous challenges. The small town of Oakwood had limited resources, and while the FBI provided additional support, the lack of substantial evidence hampered progress. Special Agent Coleman established a command center at the Oakwood Community Center. Telephone hotlines were set up, and posters with Angela's image were distributed throughout West Virginia and neighboring states. The case received national attention when it was featured on America's Missing Children, a popular television program. Multiple leads emerged during the initial investigation. 3 witnesses reported seeing a blue pickup truck parked near the school around dismissal time, though none could provide a license plate number. Another witness claimed to have seen a child resembling Angela walking with an older man near the town limits, but this sighting couldn't be verified through other testimonies. Sarah Miller's background was thoroughly examined, as is standard procedure in missing children cases. Her employment records confirmed she had been at work at the local diner during the time of Angela's disappearance. Co-workers vouched for her presence throughout her shift. Investigators found no evidence that Sarah was involved in her daughter's disappearance. Raymond Carter, Sarah's stepfather, was interviewed on September 11th. He claimed to have been home alone on his property the day Angela disappeared. With no immediate neighbors and no alibi witnesses, investigators couldn't verify his whereabouts. Initial background checks revealed no criminal history, though he had been investigated for a domestic disturbance involving Sarah's mother 15 years earlier. No charges had been filed in that incident. Mr. Carter appeared cooperative but somewhat detached during questioning, noted Agent Coleman in her report. He expressed concern for his granddaughter, but demonstrated limited emotional response compared to other family members. The investigation took a concerning turn when investigators learned that Raymond had recently renovated his basement, completing the work just 2 weeks before Angela's disappearance. When asked about the timing, he explained that he had been planning the renovation for months and had finally saved enough money to complete it. A preliminary search of Raymond's property on September 15th revealed nothing suspicious. His home, a 2-bedroom cabin situated on 5 acres of wooded land, showed no signs of a child's presence. However, investigators noted that the basement renovation included the addition of a bathroom and what Raymond described as a storage room, with a new door featuring an exterior lock. By October 1997, the investigation had hit a standstill. The FBI scaled back its presence in Oakwood, though Agent Coleman remained assigned to the case. Local authorities continued pursuing leads, but with diminishing results. The case of Angela Miller joined the growing files of missing children across America. One significant obstacle in the investigation was the geographical challenge of the region. The Appalachian terrain surrounding Oakwood featured numerous caves, abandoned mine shafts and dense forests, vast areas difficult to search thoroughly. Additionally, the close-knit nature of the community sometimes impeded information gathering, as residents were reluctant to speak ill of their neighbors. Throughout the remainder of 1997 and into 1998, periodic searches continued. Sarah Miller maintained a public presence, organizing candlelight vigils on the 8th of each month to mark the date of Angela's disappearance. She established the Angela Miller Foundation, dedicated to resources for families of missing children in rural communities. A potential breakthrough came in March 1998, when a former classmate of Sarah's contacted police. The woman, Jennifer Hayes, reported that Raymond Carter had displayed unusual interest in young children in the past, including his stepdaughter Sarah. While her statement was concerning, it provided no direct evidence regarding Angela's disappearance. Nevertheless, it placed Raymond under increased scrutiny. In July 1998, investigators attempted to obtain a warrant to conduct a more thorough search of Raymond's property, but were denied by Judge William Harmon due to insufficient evidence. This legal setback frustrated the investigation team, who believed Raymond hadn't been fully forthcoming. "We know someone in this community has information they haven't shared," Chief Davis stated in a press conference marking the 1-year anniversary of Angela's disappearance. "No matter how insignificant it might seem, we urge anyone with information to come forward." As months turned into years, the active investigation gradually transitioned into a cold case. Sarah Miller never gave up hope, though the emotional and financial toll was devastating. She continued working with the Angela Miller Foundation, channeling her grief into advocacy for improved missing persons protocols in rural areas. July 15, 2015. Nearly 18 years after Angela Miller's disappearance, Oakwood had changed. The population had declined to 3,102. The elementary school Angela had attended had merged with another district. Sarah Miller, now 44, had remained in the same apartment on Cedar Street, unwilling to leave the last place she had shared with her daughter. Raymond Carter, now 76, had become increasingly reclusive. Neighbors rarely saw him in town, and groceries were delivered to his property monthly. He had suffered a heart attack in 2010, but declined Sarah's offer to help care for him, insisting he could manage on his own. The revelation that would finally break the case came from an unexpected source. Thomas Jenkins, a delivery driver for Oakwood Medical Supplies, arrived at Raymond's property with an oxygen concentrator that had been prescribed following Raymond's recent pneumonia diagnosis. It was Jenkins' first delivery to the secluded property. While setting up the equipment in Raymond's living room, Jenkins heard movement from the basement. Raymond explained it away as just the cat, but Jenkins distinctly heard what sounded like a human cough. More concerning was when he glimpsed a young woman quickly retreating down the basement stairs when she partially opened the door. "Something didn't feel right," Jenkins later testified. The woman looked frightened, and Mr. Carter became agitated when I mentioned seeing someone. He rushed me through the setup and practically pushed me out the door. Jenkins reported his concerns to the Oakwood Police Department the following morning. Officer Melissa Chen, who had joined the force long after Angela's disappearance, took his statement. Recognizing the address and the potential connection to the town's most notorious cold case, she immediately contacted Chief Davis, who had remained in his position throughout the years. Given the previous difficulties obtaining a search warrant for the property, authorities approached the situation cautiously. They began surveillance of Raymond's home on July 17, 2015. For 3 days, officers observed the property from a distance, noting that all windows on the ground floor had heavy curtains and the basement windows had been covered with what appeared to be plywood from the inside. On July 20th, officers noted a female figure briefly visible in the backyard before quickly returning inside when a police vehicle drove past on the distant main road. This sighting provided the additional evidence needed for Judge Catherine Reynolds to issue a search warrant. At 6 a.m. on July 21, 2015, officers from the Oakwood Police Department, accompanied by FBI agents including Diana Coleman, who had remained connected to the case throughout her career, executed the search warrant on Raymond Carter's property. What they discovered shocked even the most seasoned investigators. In the basement, they found living quarters that had been carefully concealed from the outside world. The space included a bedroom, bathroom, and small living area. It was here that they discovered a 24-year-old woman who identified herself as Amanda Carter. Leave in the comments, never give up on finding the truth if you believe all missing persons deserve to be found. Initial interviews revealed the horrifying reality. Amanda was actually Angela Miller, who had been abducted by her grandfather Raymond Carter in 1997 and held captive in his home for 18 years. More disturbing was the revelation that Raymond had raised her to believe she was his wife, subjecting her to years of psychological manipulation and sexual abuse. Angela had been told that her mother had abandoned her and that the outside world was dangerous. Raymond had created an elaborate fiction that they needed to remain hidden to stay safe from unspecified threats. Over time, isolated from any other human contact, Angela had been molded to accept her captivity and her role as Raymond's companion. Medical examinations revealed that Angela had given birth to at least one child during her captivity. When questioned about the child, both Angela and Raymond initially refused to provide information. This prompted an expanded search of the property, but no evidence of a child was immediately found. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community of Oakwood. Many residents expressed disbelief that such horror had existed in their midst for nearly 2 decades. Others recalled subtle warning signs they had dismissed: Raymond's increasing reclusiveness, his reluctance to allow visitors, his insistence on privacy. "We failed her," admitted Chief Davis in a private moment with Agent Coleman. "All these years she was just miles away from her mother." The most heart-wrenching moment came when Sarah Miller was notified that her daughter had been found alive. The reunion between mother and daughter was complicated by Angela's psychological conditioning. After 18 years of manipulation, Angela initially struggled to accept that Sarah had never abandoned her and had searched for her tirelessly. Forensic psychologists brought in to evaluate Angela described her condition as one of the most severe cases of isolation and indoctrination they had encountered. Years of captivity had left her with limited understanding of the outside world. She had been permitted to read books and watch occasional videos selected by Raymond, but had no concept of current events, technology, or social norms. The full truth of Angela Miller's 18 years in captivity emerged slowly through careful forensic interviews and psychological evaluation. The details revealed a calculated abduction and a meticulously executed plan of isolation and control that had begun even before Angela disappeared. Raymond Carter was charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, sexual assault, and child abuse. At 76, in declining health, he offered little resistance during his arrest and initially refused legal representation. During his first court appearance on July 25, 2015, he stated only, "She was mine to protect." Investigation of the property continued for weeks as forensic teams searched for evidence and, critically, information about the child or children Angela had given birth to during her captivity. On July 29th, this search led to a devastating discovery when investigators found human remains buried in a remote corner of Raymond's property. Forensic analysis, would later confirm these were the remains of an infant, approximately 2 to 3 months old, who had died approximately 5 years earlier. When confronted with this evidence, Angela revealed through tears that she had given birth to a son in 2010, whom Raymond had named David. The infant had developed respiratory problems, but Raymond had refused to seek medical attention, fearing discovery. When the baby died, Raymond buried him on the property, telling Angela that the outside world had caused the illness through air pollution. Further investigation revealed that Angela had given birth to 2 other children. A daughter born in 2012 had been given up for adoption through a private arrangement Raymond had made with a couple in Kentucky, falsifying documentation to claim he was the grandfather of an unwed teen mother. This child, now 3 years old, was eventually located living with an adoptive family who had no knowledge of her true origins. Most shocking was the revelation that Angela was pregnant at the time of her rescue. Medical examination confirmed she was in her 2nd trimester. This pregnancy added urgency to her psychological care and raised complex legal questions about parental rights given the circumstances. The legal proceedings against Raymond Carter moved swiftly. Given the overwhelming evidence and the high-profile nature of the case, prosecutors sought maximum penalties. On February 3, 2016, Raymond pleaded guilty to all charges to avoid trial. He was sentenced to multiple life terms without the possibility of parole. During his sentencing hearing, Raymond finally spoke at length, revealing a disturbed worldview in which he claimed he had saved Angela from the corruption of modern society. His statement revealed no remorse, only a twisted belief that his actions had been justified. The judge described his crimes as among the most heinous this court has ever encountered. Sarah Miller, who had never lost hope of finding her daughter, faced the challenge of helping Angela reintegrate into a world she barely knew. Angela required extensive therapy and gradual exposure to society. The psychological damage from 18 years of captivity and manipulation presented enormous challenges for her recovery. In May 2016, Angela gave birth to a healthy daughter whom she named Hope. With the support of specialized therapists, Angela made the decision to raise her child with her mother's help, determined to break the cycle of abuse. The case led to significant changes in missing persons protocols in West Virginia and nationally. The Angela Miller Act, passed by the West Virginia legislature in 2017, established new guidelines for long-term missing persons cases and allocated resources for continued investigation of cold cases. The Angela Miller Foundation, which Sarah had maintained throughout the years of her daughter's disappearance, expanded its mission to include support services for recovered missing persons and their families. Sarah became a prominent advocate for improved investigation techniques in rural communities. 5 years after her rescue, Angela Miller, who chose to reclaim her birth name, had made remarkable progress in her recovery. While she continued to face challenges, she had obtained her GED and begun taking community college courses. She became a cautious but effective advocate for victims of long-term abuse, speaking to law enforcement groups about the psychological tactics used by her captor. The case of Angela Miller serves as a haunting reminder of the vulnerability of children and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. It demonstrates how predators can hide in plain sight, even in close-knit communities, and the importance of never abandoning the search for missing persons, no matter how much time has passed. If you've watched this far, it's because you care about these cases that leave families marked forever. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until the end," so I can get to know you and understand who truly cares about the search for truth. Like this video and share it with others who believe in the importance of never giving up hope. Subscribe to join our community dedicated to bringing light to the darkest corners of human experience. The story of Angela Miller is not just about the horror she endured, but about the possibility of healing and rebuilding even after unimaginable trauma. It reminds us that while justice may be delayed, the truth eventually finds its way into the light.